All right, welcome everyone. We are live on YouTube with the very first session of the 8th Symposium on Internationalization promoted by PUCPR. It's a real pleasure to be here. This is the opening session of the symposium, and I am extremely proud and honored to have our guests with us. The title of the symposium of the talk is English as Media of Instruction, a Growing Global Phenomenon. And as you probably know, the symposium PUCPR on internationalization has a theme every year, and the theme this year is faculty as key members, as internationalization agents. And then, of course, in this context, it is extremely important that the language is on the spotlight. At PUCPR, we've been doing a lot of work trying to bring English to the classroom, to our classrooms at all different levels, from undergrad to grad, lato sensu, stricto sensu. And I think we've been doing this well, relatively well. But it's always a pleasure to have experts to discuss and teach us how to do better, and to allow us to exchange our experiences. So the main speaker of the session is Dr. Nicola Galloway. Dr. Galloway is a senior lecturer in English, in teaching English to speakers of other languages at the University of Glasgow. Dr. Galloway from 2012 to 2020 was also a lecturer at the University of Edinburgh, where she coordinated courses on curriculum design, global English and research methods. Dr. Galloway's main research interest relates to the pedagogical implications of the global spread of English, and more recently on English as media of instruction in higher education. Dr. Galloway, it's a real pleasure and an honor to have you here with us. Thank you so much for doing this. Okay, are we back, Mauro? All right, Mauro is our wizard, and we are back online. So, Dr. Galloway, the floor is yours. Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you very much, and thank you again for inviting me along to present on this topic, and also on the work I've been doing with colleagues in Brazil, who I would say rightfully deserve to be introduced as experts. I'm certainly not an expert on the Brazilian context. I've been learning a lot from my colleagues Daisy and Luciani, who I've been working with on a project that we'll present at the end of the presentation. I met Luciani quite a few years ago now, and we've been working on research in this area, and I'll talk about the network that we coordinate also at the end of the presentation. And Daisy more recently, when her PhD student applied to come to Glasgow to be a visiting scholar. And she is doing research on English medium instruction. And the three of us have been working together with other colleagues on some research in Brazil that we'll talk about today. So as you mentioned, the theme of your session this year is faculty development, and that's what I'll focus on in this brief presentation. So I'll talk about faculty development and teacher training needs for both EMI content lecturers, but also English as a subject practitioner, so ELT practitioners, EAP and ESP teachers, that I have on this topic. I thought it would be interesting, first of all, just to introduce myself. You gave me an introduction there, but I thought it would be helpful just to give you a little overview of the work that I've been doing, some of the work I've done for the British Council, and a little introduction to that with regards to faculty development. I used to be an English teacher many years ago now in Japan, and I was the EAP and ESP coordinator for one of Japan's first EMI universities. So this has really given me firsthand knowledge working in an EMI context where I had to work with the content lecturers to develop the curriculum. I've worked on a number of EMI case studies, and I've done research in a number of contexts, predominantly for the British Council. I've done a funded study for the British Council in Japan and China, most recently in Southeast Asia. And I've worked on a number of different projects, and I'll present some of those to you next. I've also worked as a consultant on faculty development for the University of Tokyo. We developed a series of MOOCs, so a two-part series with 10 lectures in each for faculty development purposes in EMI. And I was awarded a JSPS, Japan Society for the Promotion of Science fellowship to go back to Japan later this year to develop their faculty development program for EMI. I also coordinate an online global network on EMI that I'll present at the end of my talk. And I'm currently working, as I mentioned, with Luciani and Daisy on an ESRC grant application to focus on English medium instruction in higher education in Brazil. And also with colleagues in Indonesia to do a follow-up MOOC series similar to the one that I did in Japan. Oh, something was clicking there. So I've just included here a couple of recent British Council publications that I think give a real good overview of the flourishing research within the field of English medium instruction. Provision, EMI policy provision, is still rapidly outpacing empirical research, but EMI is a growing research field. We now have a new journal of English medium instruction that will launch next year. Journal editors can't keep up with the amount of studies that are getting submitted based on EMI. The British Council commissioned a literature review. So here I edited the literature review for them and led a team of literature review writers. And it's a really good comprehensive overview of research in the field. I also conducted a feasibility study for the British Council on the role of English in higher education, and Anne has written the British Council perspective on EMI in higher education, and it's a really interesting read, so I've included those two for your reference here. Rather than listening to me for the next 30 minutes, Anne and her colleagues have put together this nice video that gives you an overview of the literature review. And I thought I'd just play a few minutes of this to give you an insight into what we cover in the literature review. If this works. Advanced threat. Sorry. Let's see.
The use of English as the medium of instruction, EMI, in higher education around the world has grown exponentially over the last 10 years. To examine the phenomena, in 2020, the British Council brought together a team of leading UK academics to examine research in this area and publish their findings as the English in Higher Education, English Medium Literature Review.
The review covers a wide range of topics. So let's look at some of its key findings, beginning with the definition of EMI. There are a variety of definitions out there. This one captures the key components of EMI. The use of the English language to teach academic subjects other than English itself in countries or jurisdictions where the first language of the majority of the population is not English. EMI has become a symbol of internationalism through recruitment of international students, international staff mobility, the growth in transnational education, and internationalisation of the curriculum.
The relationship, however, between English and internationalization is complex, with EMI simultaneously a driver of reaction to and outcome of internationalization. As well as internationalism, the review examines the links between EMI and other perceived benefits such as increased international student income, increased global attractiveness, increased university rankings, the development of English language competencies, employability, and access to teaching materials. There is no doubt that while these drive the spread of English medium, there is a lack of evidence to claim these as actual benefits.
The review highlights the diversity of EMI implementation models, not just across countries, but also within a country's institutions. These models are influenced by history and politics, policy, and the English levels of students and staff, and the curriculum. Examination of what constitutes student success on English medium programs found English language proficiency to be a key factor, alongside other factors such as perceived success and self-belief.
As well as success, the review also looks at the challenges for students, lecturers, and administrative staff. Challenges related to language, culture, organization, the institution, teaching and learning materials, and implementation are common.
Okay, I'm just going to stop there because it is a 7-minute video, but I just wanted to give you a little overview of the video. So I'll include the links and I'm happy to share my slides after the talk. But the literature review gives a real comprehensive overview of research on EMI. The British Council has also put together a series of other terrible pictures there. Of conversations. And so this was an interview we did, my co-author Carrie San and I, on our EMI study in Southeast Asia. So this was focusing on Vietnam, and I've included the link there. So in this interview, we give an overview of some of the main findings of that study. We were also invited to Uzbekistan to talk about EMI in this context. And again, I've included the link there to the plenary presentation there with my colleague, Dr. Jim McKinley. So lots of links here for you to watch after the session. I was also involved in EMI faculty workshops in Thailand for the British Council and some conference presentations. And this was just some feedback forms that we gathered from some of the participants, and they went really, really well. I'll also be presenting for the British Council at the New Directions East, lots of work going on with the British Council, at the New Directions East Asia Conference with my colleague, Professor Heath Rose, who organises the EMI Oxford Research Centre. So there's been a lot of British Council funded work going on this topic, and Heath will also organise an EMI symposium at the University of Oxford in December, where we'll have a number of presenters giving an overview of their research in different contexts. So there's lots going on in this growing field of research. What's really behind my interest in this topic then is a real concern that EMI is a growing global phenomenon. It's been called perhaps the most significant trend in higher education in the 21st century in non-Anglophone contexts. But there's a concern that top-down policy implementation is not taking into the account the attitudes and the impact on key stakeholders, faculty, students, administration staff. And we need a lot more research to inform a bottom-up policy implementation process. So more research at the classroom and institutional level, research that looks at the driving forces behind EMI, the perceived benefits at the national, institutional and individual level. And as we saw in the British Council video there, despite the number of perceived benefits, such as improved language proficiency, we don't have an evidence base yet. The evidence base is certainly growing with growing research in the field, but we're not there yet. So researchers are starting to examine EMI policy implementation at the practical level, but we still need more of an evidence base, more needs analysis to inform this top-down policy implementation. So as I mentioned then, it's a growing global phenomenon. I mean, if we look at Europe, Vactor and Mayworm note that there was a 1,115% growth in EMI in just 13 years, which was incredible. Then we see growth on a global level. EMI is now spreading from the traditional hotspots such as the Netherlands or Northern Europe. In Brazil, for example, well, in the Americas, EMI has increased in Colombia and Argentina. But in EMI, from my understanding at the moment, and this is a new context for me that I'm learning about and exploring with my Brazilian colleagues, is a relatively recent phenomenon of the last decade. A recent survey revealed that 86% of universities offered EMI courses or programs or had a plan to implement them, and this was mostly for postgraduates. And we'll talk more about the Brazilian context at the end. Brazil was also the focus of one of the 52 countries covered in a recent British Council study conducted by my colleagues, and here is the link to the report here, and they also provide some preliminary insights into EMI in Brazil. So as we saw in the video then, there's a number of different driving forces behind the global EMI trend in a more emerging, and I would call Brazil an emerging EMI context. We do see links with government goals to improve the English proficiency of its citizens. And this is very much linked to developments in English language teaching towards communicative language teaching. This idea that English is best learned through English only, these monolingual ideologies of language learning and teaching. This is interesting given the lack of research we have measuring English proficiency gains and also acquisition of subject knowledge as well. English proficiency is also often seen to be a key motivating factor for student enrollment in these programs as well. Again, this is interesting because by definition, EMI has no language learning goal. And my own research has revealed that staff and students have very different understandings of the definition of EMI and the purpose of the program. And what we see also in many contexts is a lack of a clear EMI policy or program outcomes or program goals. And therefore, staff and students are approaching this in very different ways. As Makara points out here, a common definition of EMI, the use of the English language to teach academic subjects other than English itself in countries or jurisdictions where the first language of the majority of the population is not English. So in this definition, we don't see a dual focus such as content and language integrated learning, CLIL. So what we see then is that different people are placing EMI at different places on the language content continuum or spectrum. Some, so EMI content lecturers, for example, may place it very much towards, I don't know if you can see right or left, I don't know how that works when you flip, but more towards content. Students perhaps may see it more as English language teaching, that, you know, they're enrolling in these courses to improve, they want to improve their subject knowledge as well, but mostly they want to improve their English. And again, this differs according to the context and also the discipline. And this is where we see the need for needs analysis. There's no one way to implement EMI policy. There's not a one-size-fits-all approach here. So as I mentioned then, my own research has found that students and teachers have very different understandings. In my research, the students were enrolling to learn English. The content teachers did not see English learning and English teaching as being a part of their role. They're not trained English language teachers, for example. The growing body of research, and I've made the reference here to Curl et al., that's the literature review. I'm just checking my time here, I've got 10 minutes, has revealed that there's a number of challenges to implementing EMI policy. And one of these major challenges is language-related challenges. And students' language-related challenges or the readiness to study their full degree in English has been identified as being a major barrier to EMI. They've been reported to have difficulty comprehending lengthy lectures, the volume of reading. In Korea, less than a third of the students felt they could understand 80%. So we do have to think here not just about domain loss with the Englishization of higher education, but whether our students are really equipped with the English proficiency skills to learn their university degree in English, not their mother tongue. And I think this, the number of language-related challenges that have been revealed in the literature really highlight the need for supporting our students. We have a duty to support our students through this process. Again, this raises questions, well, whose duty is it? Is it the content lecturer or the English language teacher? And I'll come back to this. So we have to think about, well, what about entrance requirements? What level of English do our students need to survive on an EMI program? And then we have to think, well, how are we defining English proficiency? And this obviously is a very controversial topic. So we do have then a growing body of evidence highlighting the importance of integrated academic and language support programs. I've looked at this with my colleague Rachel on the provision of student support, and there's a lot of work now being conducted by Heath Rose and his colleagues on looking at language outcomes. So we do see an increased focus in the field on EMI and looking at measures of success in EMI. As I mentioned then at the start of the talk, with regards to faculty development, I think it's important not to forget the English teacher. They are often overlooked. All of the focus, well, not all of the focus, sorry, most of the focus in the EMI literature has been on the training needs of content faculty. But personally, with my own experience in Japan, I was clueless. I was tasked with designing this EAP and ESP curriculum in international business, and I knew nothing about the topic, the specialist vocabulary. So my colleague Heath and I were recently invited to write a piece on the impact of EMI on ELT for the anniversary edition of the ELT journal. And this gave us a real opportunity to think about this topic as well. And, you know, the increasing opportunities for English language teachers to specialise. We see an increased number of job advertisements looking for not general English teachers in the university, but those with specialist backgrounds, you know, an English major with a background in science, for example. It's really is changing the job of the English language teacher working in the university context. And I think we do need to look at this more carefully in the field of EMI. Also thinking about team teaching opportunities and increased collaboration between the two teachers. There are different approaches to implementing EMI policy, and here I've drawn, this is Ernesto Macaro's models here, and the role of the English language teacher will also differ depending on the approach to EMI that's taken. So on the top left, we have the preparatory year model. Here, some universities have students taking a 1-year intensive course to prepare them for EMI. Some have a concurrent model where students take EAP and ESP courses alongside their content courses. So here the ELT teacher may find themselves having to work collaboratively with the content teacher. There may be the selection model, so students have certain standards of English that they have to meet before they enter. Or, and I like this, the ostrich model, where students just receive no support. The program leads simply bury their heads in the sand, and it's just assumed that students will be able to do this. And my own research has shown that this does exist. Some students have zero support on their EMI programs. For those that can afford extra private classes, they're able to access that. And then here we have the issues with equity and social and educational inequalities with regards to EMI. So we see then that there's a need for more English for specific academic purposes, ESAP. I've got 5 minutes. So we need to look then at the needs of students from specific disciplines. And this, as I mentioned, presents challenges for the ELT practitioner. This requires teachers to develop their own subject knowledge and competencies. They need to investigate the specific epistemology, language, and practices of the target discipline. And this may be seen as a challenge. However, as Flowerdew and then myself and Heath note, this does also present some good opportunities for the ELT teacher in the university. Maybe there's a chance to make applied linguistics central to the university. Often at the moment, the English teachers are housed in a separate building, a different department. But really, I would say that if the EMI trend is going to continue, then we need to work much more closely with English language teachers, respect their needs, investigate their needs, but also make them much more central to the development of this policy implementation. So this is just an example here then of how the EMI was approached in the university that I worked at in Japan. In the first year, in the first semester, students took general English classes, so just general English. Then in the second semester of their first year, they took EAP courses. This became more intensive in the second year. They took EAP classes on a more frequent basis in the first semester. This was gradually replaced with ESP classes to prepare them to study content through English in their third and fourth year. So it was a staggered model to EMI, and we worked closely with the content lecturers to develop the curriculum. So from this experience and also from my research, I would say that collaboration in bridge building is key, not just for faculty development, but also for EMI successful and sustainable policy implementation. The lack of collaboration between the two types of teachers has been identified as being a major challenge, and there's numerous questions over who should provide support to students. In my research, students felt their content lecturers also had a duty to help them, but we have to think, is this beyond their skill set? They don't have training, as I mentioned at the start, in English language teaching. Or is team teaching the answer? So I'm posing questions here. I don't have the answers. It's just things that I'm thinking about based on some of my findings. Just a couple of minutes. So I started to ask some of the content lecturers and English language teachers in my research about this. And, as one teacher mentioned here, we cannot separate the two. One referred to a lack of TESOL training and thinks this should be the responsibility of the English teachers. Teaching itself, like anything else, it's a discipline, and it does require training in most cases. And I've already admitted that I've done 9 years of this without any formal training in ESL, English as a Second Language. I've never taken a TESOL course, not one. I think for the most part, I wouldn't want a content faculty member trying to teach ESL at all if we have available to us trained, competent professionals in ESL. That's an interesting comment here. So I think then future directions, I think that I've tried to highlight here that I really feel that for EMI policy to be successful, we need consultation within the university with our language acquisition experts. And my team on our Brazil research bid that we'll present next, we are a group of applied linguists, and we're going to draw on the expertise of a multidisciplinary project advisory panel, given that EMI has an impact across the whole university. But I do feel that the insights of applied linguists are key here. We need increased collaboration between the two types of teachers, and we need more research investigating the impact of EMI on students' English language proficiency, as well as the role of academic and language support and the impact of this on the ELT. So we need more needs analysis research, which the British Council is putting a lot of efforts into. One of the outcomes of one of my studies, and I work with Luciani and Daisy on this, is the establishment of an online global network. This was to increase collaboration between content and English teachers, researchers and practitioners, and also to increase the impact of our research. We have been offline for about 10 months as I moved institutions, but we have a new web company now. I have a new intern an intern will be starting to work with me on this, and I've had funding approved to develop several of the strands. So we do have a Brazil section. Luciani might mention a little about that, but if you're interested, we can send you the link and we can give you more information. We've got some social media pages, we have a mailing list, we have reading lists as well, and we also have a YouTube channel. We've got over 70 coordinators around the world, and we meet regularly with each of the teams to talk about network developments. So I'd like now to hand over to the real experts on this topic in Brazil, my colleagues Daisy and Luciani, who will give you an introduction to the project that we are conducting at the moment. We're hoping to, if it's successful. So I'll stop sharing if I can. Just a second.
Yes. Mauro, are we
Stop.
back? Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It was great. I think that we can move on to the second presentation. Are we ready? And then we'll leave the questions for the end of the session.
I think it's okay.
Yes.
Yes. I'm listening to my voice. Is it okay?
There is an echo.
Maybe my mic is open?
Is it now? Now it's okay. I think so.
Yes, it's great.
Okay. So, hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here at this great event at PUCPR. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here and to share a little bit about our team and about our project. In fact, we have to thank Dr. Galloway or our friend Nicola that has invited us to be here, me and Daisy. And I have to say that we are not, me, about myself, I'm not an expertise in EMI yet, but I'm trying to learn, and I'm learning a lot with this group, this Brazilian team, as we have been saying. And I work at the University of Passo Fundo, and I started my studies on EMI some 3 years ago when I entered the international office, and I started studying more about this and engaged in projects. And then I met Nicola online, just online. And we are working in the building of this project. And I will present here very briefly some guidelines or an overview of the project, and Daisy will contribute with some more information. So our project will engage different professors from different universities here in Brazil. And of course, it will be coordinated by Nicola there at the University of Glasgow. So the name of the project is Internationalization and the English Language in Brazilian Higher Education, Fostering UK-Brazil Collaboration. So here we have the investigators that Nicola has also mentioned, mainly from Glasgow and Oxford and University College London. And our co-investigators here in Brazil, we are in 5 here. Dr. Daisy Plina Dutra, Dr. Beatriz Rodrigues, Dr. Ana Beatriz de Souza, Dr. Marília Ferreira, and me. And we also have other partners from federal universities, from state universities in Brazil, from Federal Institute of Education, and other universities and colleges based in Brazil that they will work as project partners. And here we can say that our ambitious interdisciplinary project has the potential to make Brazil an exemplar for researching English and EMI in higher education, and to influence and inspire higher education internationalization policies worldwide through through achievement of the following objectives. So we have a list here. I'm not going to read all the details, but the main topics are research innovation, stakeholder engagement, capacity building, policy change and social impact, international influence. And as Nicola mentioned, I think EMI in all over the world is a challenge for all the universities. But I think in Brazil we have a bigger challenge because we know that lots of universities and higher education institutes have been working to implement policies and programs related to EMI, considering the internationalization process. But we know that is not something easy, is not something that we say, just do it and the things will happen. So it needs lots of efforts from all the community of each institution. And we know that research and collaboration with all areas are very important. So these objectives will be achieved from three stages that are the structure of our project. So we have stage 1, EMI in Brazil, and for each stage we have a question that will guide the details of the project. And we have been working hard to build this project considering the reality here in Brazil, the demands and all the things, considering the work that we still have and what we suppose, what is supposed to map in the first stage, and then to go to the other two stages. So the question for stage 1 is, what are the key driving forces behind approach to and challenge to implementing EMI policies in Brazilian higher education? In stage 2, English and internationalization, what is the role and impact of English in the higher education internationalization agenda? And stage 3, facilitating sustained collaboration and research. In what ways can the creation of COP infrastructure facilitate context-specific EMI policy implementation, stakeholder engagement, and sustained collaborative research? So I think then that Daisy can complement some of these ideas. Please, Daisy.
Very well. Thank you, Luciani, for the introduction of our project. As Nicola and Luciani have said, we are polishing the project to submit it probably early next year to ESRC. And as Luciani, I'm not a real expert yet on EMI, but I've been involved in many internationalization initiatives at the Federal University of Minas Gerais for many years now. I was a member of Language Without Borders and many other courses we have offered to our professors to train them on language and EMI strategies. And I think what is very interesting about this project, as Luciani pointed out, is that we will contribute in a way of having a survey to learn more about Brazil, how EMI has been done in Brazil. There has been research on that, right? Some colleagues from the state of Paraná, right? So state of Paraná is a strong state in EMI. So we will build from that, but what will be, we hope that will be very interesting is to have that we have partners in all 5 regions, right? And then we'll be able to do the bottom-up work that Nicola was saying that has been somehow missed, right, in many of the contexts when it comes from a policy from up, from top to down. And we know that many professors really want to work with EMI, and so we want to understand what's going on, and we want to give them the support they need, either language support or other more technical and pedagogical supports as well, to make sure that whatever policy they decide to create or to increase or to improve, it is something that the community will see it as valuable, right? And that the community can build on that. And I think we can probably learn a lot from PUC, right? Paraná, because you have had one of the strongest programs for in the past in this past decade. So we would just certainly get to you and hope that we can have you as a partner, or we can maybe have a part of one of our case studies. So we're looking forward to that. Then thank you for the opportunity and for the invitation to be here tonight. Thank you.
So much. Am I there? Yes. Okay. Well, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. It's a really a beautiful work, and we've learned a lot. I think that I was listening to your presentation, Dr. Galloway, and thinking of our experience here at PUC when we decided to implement or to bring English into the classroom, not even knowing that there was such thing as EMI. That was back in the days, almost 10 years ago, and it was really a initiative based on trying to see if we have the demand and the capacity to cover that. The demand from the students, and if our faculty members were able to provide. What I think that we're still at that stage, to be very honest. We moved our initiative to something that was really based on having full English all the time at the classroom at all levels. The lectures were in English, the examinations were also in English, discussions among students and faculty and professors were also in English, and so on. We changed that recently, and we are now offering the possibility of our faculty to offer their disciplines in 3 different levels of at 3 different levels of English. So we call it the Global Classes Program Level 1, in which the material that the professor uses in the classroom is in English, but the lecture and the discussion can be at any language. They're free to decide. They can do it in Portuguese, they can do it in English, they can do it in any language. Level 2, the supporting material and the lecture is in English, but any other activities are open to different languages. And then level 3, we have everything in English. The lecture, the supporting material, the discussions, and the examinations, and so on. And that was very interesting. That was a nice experience. We've had many professors willing to join in and try themselves, because one of the things that we realized was not that the students were hesitant to jump into a discipline in English, but the professors were also. And at some contexts, our students, they were speaking better English than the professors. So the professors were feeling insecure to expose themselves to a situation in which they could be perceived as somebody who does not dominate the content, because their ability to convey that content was not perfect. So I'm saying all that because I wanted to pose this question. Do you deal with that situation also? Professors, faculty members, they're not 100% safe. They think they're not able to join in an initiative like that, and then they need some kind of support. Dr. Galloway, maybe you could
I can answer first, and then Daisy and Luciani might want to jump in. I don't know if this will answer your question or if I'll throw the question back, but my concern is there's too much focus on proficiency. And, we need to think about who is a successful and competent EMI content lecturer? Is it someone that's simply so-called proficient in English, that they have, they follow native English, obtained their doctorate in a native English-speaking country? I think these are all real issues that are resurfacing with the global spread of EMI, the dominance of native speakerism in the field, issues of linguistic imperialism. And we see it. I've got an article coming up in System on the ideal EMI faculty development at EMI teachers, and looking at competencies and skills. And it's a very unique situation. You're teaching in English, often to students that share your mother tongue, quite often with international students, so you've got a diverse cohort, varying entrance requirements, so you've got students with varying levels of English, but also varying levels of subject knowledge. So there's so much required of an EMI content lecturer, and I don't think it's just about English proficiency, and I think we have to think about how we're defining proficiency as well. And English is a global language now, and spoken by more non-native speakers than native English speakers now. And so I think if we have a more global English perspective of the role of English, that this can really inform a more inclusive EMI policy. I don't know if that answered your question or complicated it.
Yeah, I think that is precisely the point, and that what we were trying to control when we decided to create all the three levels. What the message that we think we're sending is, you don't need to be proficient in English. You can actually go there and try to communicate, and it works. It works, and maybe if you try yourself at the level 1, then you feel encouraged to move on to level 2 and eventually reach level 3, but not as someone who is being trained on English as a second language, but someone that is gaining the confidence to go beyond, a little bit beyond that. That was mainly the idea when we decided to implement the 3 levels.
And I think confidence is key. Both faculty and students need support. And I think that ostrich model that Ernesto Macaro has mentioned is really quite concerning, that there are some EMI programs where students are not receiving any support at all.
Right, and yes, Daisy.
May I say something? So yeah, I was listening to all that, and I think what we are facing here is really many taboos or many myths about, who who is the best teacher. And we know we, as language teachers, we have gone through this too, right? Like only native speakers of English are good English teachers. And so now we know in the area that this is not true. You have to have the training, you have to have the knowledge, and you can be as good or even better than any native speaker, right? But then when you come to content professors, they carry a lot of these myths, right? So I was so happy to hear that you have created this different level EMI, to make it more comfortable for professors to join in. And I can say that in one of the programs, one of the courses we offered to EMI professors at FMG, in one day we discussed about the use of Portuguese or the native language together with English, and the participants that were more strict about simply only using English were the content professors. There were other colleagues of mine, English teachers and EAP teachers, English for academic, and we were just like, oh yeah, okay, they can switch if they want, they can, and all the others, like people from odontology, from engineering, from history, they were like, at first they were just like, no, it's better. They are here to practice. They are here to learn the content and the language. So they put a lot of pressure into that. And after we worked on that for a while, they were much more comfortable about like, oh, maybe if we let them say a few words in Portuguese, or if we let them answer in Portuguese if they want, they will feel more like participating, and they will come back next time, next class, right? And so then we had lots of videos about that. We read texts about that, and so I think there is a lot to be deconstructed, so that it becomes more inclusive, as Nicola said, and then that we can also give support to both teachers and students, but that we also don't perpetuate this idea that you have to be perfect and that you always have to have the native speaker as your goal, because that's not going to happen, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you see, and there's something else maybe for us here. Our international community of students the vast majority of them are not native English speakers. They come from Latin America, they come from France, they come from Spain, and so on. So that fits also very well to that community. Our international students, they speak an equivalent level of English as our own students from here. So you see, it's really complex. You have to think about all these, Yes, Dr. Galloway.
No, I was just going to add an example to Daisy's examples there about language use in the classroom, and that one of the findings of my study in Japan and China was that the content professors often had to use the students' mother tongue to help with their learning. But students saw any use of their mother tongue as a sign of a lack of English proficiency from the content professors. So we had this different view on the use of the L1 in the classroom. But then, just as you were talking there, what's also concerning is, we have Nobel Prize winning professors suddenly told transition to teaching English. And are we placing more emphasis now on English proficiency than subject knowledge for university professors? And it's a real concern.
Yeah, that is fascinating, really. Yeah. So
Lots to talk about.
we could go on forever, right? But unfortunately, we are almost out of time. So I'd like to thank you again, and I want to make a very special thanks to the British Council partners, Juliana, who helped us and connected us all at the beginning. It was fantastic. Juliana, thank you so much. British Council has been always very close to us, and we're very proud of that partnership. I hope sessions like this will make us even more makes us even better partners, right? And I want to say that PUCI open to you, of course. Please come and visit us. You'll be more than welcome. I think, your project, your proposal is really fascinating. If we can help in any ways, or if we can be part of that, that would be amazing. And I really wish all the success to you all. Thank you so much again. I hope we'll stay in touch. And again, this is the first day only of our symposium. We'll have a whole week of events. Again, feel free to join us anytime you want. And thank you so much. Thank you. It was fantastic. We're really honored and proud to having you here. Okay.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Good
All
evening.
right.
Thank you
Perfect.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.